if you remember where we were last time, Lavender has been set as in charge of the water for Miss Trunchbull, and she has done a little bit of a prank on her. She has gone into the garden and she has stolen some newts from the pond. So it's her job to make sure that's there, and today is the lesson when Miss Trunchbull is taking charge. The weekly test. At 2:00 sharp, the class assembled, including Miss Honey, who noted that the jug of water and the glass were in proper place. Then she took up position, standing right at the back. Everyone waited. Suddenly, in marched the gigantic figure of the headmistress in her belted smock and green trousers. "Good afternoon, children," she barked. "Good afternoon, Miss Trunchbull," they chirped. The headmistress stood before the class, legs apart, hands on hips, glaring at the small boys and girls before her. They were sitting nervously at their desks. "Not a very pretty sight," she said. Her expression was one of utter distaste, as though she were looking at something like a dog had done in the middle of the floor. "What a bunch of nauseating little warts you are." Everyone had the sense to stay silent. "It makes me vomit," she went on. "To think that I am going to have to put up with a load of garbage like you in my school for the next 6 years. I can see that I am going to have to expel as many of you as possible, as soon as possible, to save myself from going round the bend." She paused and snorted several times. It was a curious noise. You can hear the same sort of thing if you walk through a riding stable when the horses are behind being fed. "I suppose," she went on, "your mothers and fathers tell you you're wonderful. Well, I am here to tell you the opposite, and you'll better believe me. Stand up, everybody!" They all got up quickly to their feet. "Now put your hands out in front of you, and as I walk past, I want you to turn them over so I can see if they are clean on both sides." The Trunchbull began a slow march along the rows of desks, inspecting the hands. All went well until she came to a small boy in the second row. "What's your name?" she barked. "Nigel," the boy said. "Nigel what?" "Nigel Hicks," the boy said. "Nigel Hicks what?" the Trunchbull bellowed. She bellowed so loud that she nearly blew the little chap out of the window. "That's it, Nigel Hicks. Unless you want my middle names as well." He was a brave little fellow, and one could see that he was trying not to be scared by the Gorgon who towered above him. "I do not want your middle names, you blister," the Gorgon bellowed. "What is my name?" "Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "Then use it when you address me. Now then, let's try again. What's your name?" "Nigel Hicks, Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "That's better," the Trunchbull said. "Your hands are filthy, Nigel. When did you last wash them?" "Well, let me think," Nigel said. "That's rather difficult to remember exactly. It could have been yesterday, or it could have been the day before." The Trunchbull's whole body and face seemed to swell up as though she were being inflated by a bicycle pump. "I knew it!" she bellowed. "I knew as soon as I saw you that you were nothing but a piece of filth. What is your father's job? A sewerage worker?" He's a doctor," Nigel said, "and a jolly good one. He says we're all so covered in bugs anyway that a bit of extra dirt never hurts anyone." "I'm glad he's not my doctor," the Trunchbull said. "And why, might I ask, is there a baked bean on your front shirt?" "Well, we had them for lunch today, Miss Trunchbull." "And do you usually put your lunch on the front of your shirt, Nigel? Is that what this famous doctor father of yours has taught you to do?" "Well, baked beans they're hard to eat, Miss Trunchbull. They keep falling off my fork." "You're disgusting," Trunchbull bellowed. "You're a walking germ factory. I don't wish to see any more of you today. Go and stand in the corner on one leg with your face to the wall." "But, Miss Trunchbull..." "Don't argue with me, boy, or I'll make you stand on your head. Now do as you're told." Nigel went. Now, stay where you are, boy, while I test you on your spellings to see if you've learnt anything at all this past week. And don't turn around when you talk to me. Keep your nasty little face to the wall. Now then, spell right. Which one? Nigel asked. The thing you do with a pen? Or the one that means the opposite of wrong? He happened to be an unusually bright child, and his mother had worked hard with him at home on spellings and reading. The one with the pen, you little fool. Nigel spelled it correctly, which surprised the Trunchbull. She thought that she had given him a very tricky word, one that he wouldn't yet have learnt, and she was peeved that he had succeeded. Then Nigel said, still balancing on one leg facing the wall, Miss Honey taught us how to spell a new very long word yesterday. And what word was that? The Trunchbull asked softly. The softer her voice became, the greater the danger, but Nigel wasn't to know this. Difficulty? Nigel said. Everyone in the class can spell difficulty now. What nonsense, the Trunchbull said. You are not supposed to learn long words like that until you are at least 8 or 9. And don't try to tell me everybody in the class can spell that word. You're lying to me, Nigel. Well, test someone, Nigel said, taking an awful chance. Test anyone you like. The Trunchbull's dangerous, glittering eyes roved around the class. You! She said, pointing at a tiny and rather daft little girl called Prudence. Spell difficulty! Amazingly, Prudence actually spelt it correctly, and without a moment's hesitation. The Trunchbull was properly taken aback. Huh! She snorted. And I suppose Miss Honey wasted a whole one lesson teaching you to spell that one single word. Oh, no, she didn't, piped Nigel. Miss Honey taught it to us in 3 minutes. We never forgot it. She teaches us lots of words in 3 minutes. And what exactly is this magic method, Miss Honey? Asked the headmistress. I'll show you, piped the brave Nigel again, coming to Miss Honey's rescue. Can I put my other foot down and turn around, please, while I show you? You may do neither, Miss Trunchbull replied. Stay as you are and show me just the same. All right, said Nigel, wobbling crazily on one leg. Miss Honey gave us a little song about each word, and we all sing it together, and we learn to spell it in no time. Would you like to hear the song about difficulty? Oh, I should be fascinated, the Trunchbull said in a voice dripping with sarcasm. Here it is, Nigel said. Mrs. D, Mrs. I, Mrs. F, F, I, Mrs. C, Mrs. U, Mrs. L, T, Y. That spells difficulty. How perfectly ridiculous, snorted the Trunchbull. Why are all these women married? And anyway, you're not meant to teach poetry when you're teaching spelling. Cut it out in future, Miss Honey. Oh, but it does teach them some of the harder words wonderfully well, Miss Honey murmured. Don't argue with me, Miss Honey, the headmistress thundered. Just do as you're told. I shall now test the class on the multiplication tables to see if Miss Honey has taught you anything at all in that direction. The Trunchbull had returned to her place in front of the class, and her diabolical gaze was moving slowly along the rows of tiny pupils. You! She barked, pointing at a small boy called Rupert in the front row. What is 2 sevens? 16, Rupert answered with foolish abandon. The Trunchbull started advancing slowly and soft-footed upon Rupert in the manner of a tigress stalking a small deer. Rupert suddenly became aware of the danger signals and quickly tried again. It's 18, he cried. Wait, 2 sevens, 18, not 16, yeah. You ignorant little slug, the Trunchbull bellowed. You witless weed, you empty-headed hamster, you stupid glob of glue! She had now stationed herself directly behind Rupert, and suddenly she extended a hand the size of a tennis racket and grabbed all of the hair on Rupert's head in her fist. Rupert had a lot of golden-coloured hair. His mother thought it was beautiful to behold and took a delight in allowing it to grow extra long. The Trunchbull had a great dislike for long hair on boys, as she did for plaits and pigtails on girls, and she was about to show it. She took a firm grip on Rupert's long golden tresses with her giant hand, and then, by raising her muscular arms, she lifted the helpless boy clean out of his chair and held him aloft. Rupert yelled. He twisted and squirmed and kicked in the air and went on yelling like a stuck pig. Ah! And Miss Trunchbull bellowed, 2 sevens are 14! 2 sevens are 14. I'm not letting you go until you say it. From the back of the class, Miss Honey cried out, Oh, Miss Trunchbull, please let him get down. You're hurting him. All his hair might come out. And well it might if he doesn't stop wriggling, snorted the Trunchbull. Keep your squirming. Keep still, you squirming worm. It really was a quite extraordinary sight to see this giant headmistress dangling the small boy high in the air, and the boy spinning and twisting like something on the end of a string and shrieking his head off. Say it! bellowed the Trunchbull. Say 2 sevens are 14, hurry up or I'll start jerking you up and down, and then your hair really will come out, and we'll have enough of it to stop a sofa. Go on with it, boy. Say 2 sevens are 14, and I'll let you go. 2 sevens are 14, gasped Rupert, whereupon the Trunchbull, true to her word, opened her hand and quite literally let him go. He was a long way off the ground when she released him, and he plummeted to the earth, hit the floor, and bounced like a football. Get up and stop whimpering, the Trunchbull barked. Rupert got up and went back to his desk, massaging his scalp with both hands. The Trunchbull returned to the front of the class. The children sat there, hypnotised. None of them had seen anything quite like this before. It was splendid entertainment. It was better than pantomime, but one big difference. In this room, there was an enormous human bomb in front of them, which was liable to explode and blow somewhere and someone to bits at any moment. The children's eyes were riveted on their headmistress. I don't like small people, she was saying. Small people should never be seen by anybody. They should be kept out of sight in boxes like hairpins and buttons. I cannot for the life of me see why children have to take so long to grow up. I think they do it on purpose. Another extremely brave little boy in the front row spoke up and said, But surely you were a small person once, Miss Trunchbull, weren't you? I was never a small person, she snapped. I have been large all my life, and I don't see why others can't be the same way. But you must have started out as a baby, the boy said. Me? A baby? Shouted the Trunchbull. How dare you suggest such a thing? What cheek? What infernal insolence? What's your name, boy? And stand up when you speak to me! The boy stood up. My name is Eric Ink, Miss Trunchbull, he said. Eric what? The Trunchbull murmured. Ink, the boy said. Don't be an ass, boy. There's no such name. Look in the phone book, Eric said. You'll see my father there under Ink. Very well then, the Trunchbull said. You may be Ink, young man, but let me tell you something. You're not indelible. I'll very soon rub you out if you try getting clever with me. Spell what? I don't understand, Eric said. What do you want me to spell? Spell what, you idiot? Spell the word what? W-O-T, Eric said, answering too quickly. There was a nasty silence. I'll give you one more chance, the Trunchbull said quietly, not moving. Oh, yes, I know, Eric said. I got an H in it. It's got an H. W-H-O-T. It's easy. In 2 large strides, the Trunchbull was behind Eric's desk. And there she stood, a pillar of doom, towering over the helpless boy. Eric glanced fearfully back over his shoulder at the monster. I was right, wasn't I? He murmured nervously. You were wrong! The Trunchbull barked. In fact, you strike me as a sort of poisonous little pockmark that will always be wrong. You sit wrong, you look wrong, you speak wrong. You're wrong all round. I'll give you one more chance to be right.